Welcome, everyone. This is the Mo Show on Rock M Radio. I'm your host, Chad Moller. I was a longtime PR guy for Mizzou Athletics, and I started this podcast to share the experiences and the friendships that I made over the years and bring those to Mizzou fans and have a chance to meet these people a little bit behind the scenes and talk about Mizzou and the sporting world in general. So this is episode number 3 of the show, and I'm really grateful that you chose to join in. And I'm very excited to bring you my next guest. He doesn't really need much introduction, but if I'm going to be a professional podcaster, I've got to do an introduction. So here we go. Tiger fans know him really well. He's the winningest football coach in Mizzou history and a recent inductee into the College Football Hall of Fame. So you know who that is. That's Coach Gary Pinkel. And just a quick setup, of course, Coach came to Mizzou from Toledo in 2001. And when he retired after the 2015 season here at Mizzou, he had won a Mizzou record 118 games. What else? 5 conference division titles, 10 bowl games in his 15 years, 6 bowl wins, 2 teams that finished in the top 5 in the country, 10 first-team All-Americans, academic All-Americans, NFL draft picks. It goes on and on and on. Anyway, I had the honor of being Coach's PR guy for his last 14 seasons, and we had a great run, great experiences together, and that brought a lot of excitement and joy to Tiger fans that I know. So I thought he would be a fun guest to have on. So I hope you enjoy this visit, and without further ado, here's the old ball coach himself, Gary Pinkel. Coach, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Chad. How you doing, buddy?
It's great to have you on the show, and it's just a new thing I'm starting, so appreciate you being on the front end of it, and looking forward to visiting and having Tiger fans get to hear what you're up to. So, okay. I got a bunch of questions for you. I don't think any of them are bad ones, but I guess you'll judge me at the end, like you always. You're coaching, so I thought we'd just kind of start chronologically. You grew up in the Akron area. And obviously football is such a big part of your life. So thinking back to your childhood, what were kind of the first memories you have of football growing up, whether it was playing or watching it or just talking about it? What were some of the early memories related to football?
Well, I'm going to reveal how old I am here. I better just pray not do that. But
I'm with you.
When I liked football, I used to run around my house when I was 10, 11 years old, and I'd put socks in my shirt so I had shoulder pads on. And
okay.
And I started playing a little football probably a long time ago. But it was I really enjoyed it for some reason. I kind of was very attached to it, and my mom and dad were very positive, and that's what I chose sport wise. Got into basketball a little bit, baseball, little league, and all that kind of stuff. But football was the one that kind of brought me closer together to being a part of it.
Do you think that's because Ohio is kind of known as a hotbed, a cradle of coaches, I think is one of the nicknames, right? It's such a big deal in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, I think so. And of all the skills there is in baseball and all those things, one thing I was pretty good at, I could catch. Not that they threw that much back then, but at the end of the day, I could catch. So that's why I kind of leaned more and backed off the other one, just leaned on the football part of it. Pee-wee football, you're playing from your 9 till you're 12 years old. And then, you were going to high school, move up that, and then if you can, college, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of where I was, and it was something that I was very, very interested in. When I was in high school, my dad got tickets to see a team play up. I think it was. Oh gosh, what was the team? I'm trying to think of the one that I think it was the Packers. Yes, and so when we were late to a game. My dad took me to. He got tickets. Someone gave it to him. We couldn't afford to do it, and we're running up to the stadium to get in and trying to get anything. And who would we ever expect from the Green Bay Packers head coach? Do you know who the head coach is? The Green Bay Packers, the great head coach,
Vince Lombardi. I'm going to guess, right?
So Vince Lombardi. I went like this. I was stunned. I said, "Dad, that's Vince Lombardi." He got out of a limousine and was walking up. He had a Russian hat on. They weren't playing in the game, but he was at the championship game we were watching up in Cleveland. And he came up to me, put his arm around me, and talk to me about, you get good grades, and, football is a great thing for being a part of your life and make you a better young man and things like that. And little did you ever know, when that little get together, that I would become a coach and football would be my life.
Yeah, that's a great way to come up and be around that kind of thing. And I was going to ask you, if when you were a kid growing up, did coaching ever enter your thoughts, or was that something that just kind of happened as you went through your playing days and all that?
Well, I think when I was growing up in our side yard, my buddy, I don't know, might have been 8. I've been 8, 9 years old, 10 years old. Right on. My brother was 5, and we would have boys, and I'd be the quarterback and coach my guys, go against his guys, went back and forth, and nobody could beat us. Nobody could beat us. And I'm not being cocky or but at the end of the day, I was coaching when I was 10, 11 years old, and we were pretty good at the time. So you think back to those memories that kind of. Little did you know, I would ever go that direction and in my life.
You always told us that tight ends were the best athletes on the field, and just so you know, we never believed that. We just always went along with it so you wouldn't get mad at us, right?
Well, tight ends are probably the most needed. To this day, I would suggest. I think the Chiefs have a pretty good one, and
they do.
And so on and so forth. But yeah, I was. Took a lot of pride in playing that position. It was hard for me,
of course,
to be wide receiver until I went to wide receiver in high school too. I was a big wide receiver, and then when I went to college, all of a sudden we're going to teach you how to block and being on the line of scrimmage, and so I really struggled early in that when I was in college.
I gotcha. So yeah, that takes us to Kent State, and obviously you had a chance to go play at Kent State, and people know this, but you got to campus shortly after that National Guard, the tragedy happened on campus. Take us back to what it was like when you came on campus, and that had to be just kind of an incredible time to be there in the middle of all that.
Yeah, I committed them in April of my senior year, and I was committed to them and going to Kent State University. And May 4th of that year, that's when the 4 kids were shot by National Guard at Kent State University. I mean, it was like the whole world stopped. And we lived about 45 minutes from Kent, Ohio. We lived in Akron, in between, and Cleveland was north of us. So yeah, that was absolutely devastating. You're young at the time. You just turned 18. You're not sure what they're going to do. Are they going to close the school down for whatever? But we went in as freshmen and so on and so forth. And it was a very tragic time. I mean, there was a lot of lessons learned there, and it's a very sad and unfortunate. There was loss of life. But I think that, the thing that we did was, I remember the first year. So I was up in my girlfriend's room, and we looked out and this is a year later. Okay. I'm there 1 year, and it's the anniversary issue, for lack of a better term.
Right.
And this is it. And I see National Guard running up and down the streets outside the window looking down. And this is,
Wow.
there was nobody hurt, but there was quite a bit of violence and people angry and anger. So anyway, that was a huge moment, for everybody. And at the end of the day, through time we healed, but it was something that, it was very unfortunate it happened.
Yeah. That's an amazing thing to be part of. Obviously not positive, but just momentous, occasion in that community. So on to the better stuff at Kent State. You guys won a conference championship. I think it was 1972, and it was the first one the school had ever won. Is that right, in football?
Yes, it was. We had a guy on our team named Jack Lambert, who
heard of him,
in the NFL Hall of Fame, middle linebacker.
Yep.
And a guy named Nick Saban, the guy that it got into coaching profession, and we both got into it because of Don James' influence. We can talk about that later, but that was and we got there. It was, I mean, and we did the same thing when I came in my coaching. When I saw Coach James, I met him. We had meetings, and then we go out and we have our winter conditioning in the mornings at 6 o'clock in the mornings, 7 o'clock in the morning, and it is toughest thing you've ever been through in my life. We had players quitting. We had players taking their shirts off and throwing them, and they didn't care. This is a standard of what we're going to do to make ourselves stronger, faster, quicker. And we got to be mentally tough. We got to work hard. We got to stop and finish. All those things. That's what we have to do. And I hung in there. I wasn't going to quit, but there was a few days out there thinking, I woke up earlier in the morning. And I said, well, I really got to go to this. I call it and tell them I'm sick. And I said, well, that probably wouldn't be very good either. So, but that was a difference maker, in that football program. And I experienced it as a player. So we'll talk later. But when I became a head coach, we'll re-enter that whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I was going to bring those guys up, but you beat me to it. What was Jack Lambert like to play with? He just seemed like he was just this madman on the field. I assume he was fun to be a teammate with.
Yeah, Jack was great. He was out of small high school in north of Kent, and he got a partial scholarship initially.
Really?
Wow. He played quarterback. He's 6'5".
Oh, no kidding.
At the time, he was 190 pounds. But he played quarterback and some defensive back, I think, a little bit. But, what we did, and just a great, great competitor. I mean, he's a different level competitor. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. The guy has 4 Super Bowl rings, and he'll point to all his teammates, number one. But at the end of the day, he was, he's in the NFL Hall of Fame because he was just a phenomenal guy. And so he was, a lot of things happened with him, and I'm really happy for him that he had such a great, great career and had such huge influence on a lot of people.
Yeah. And then, of course, you mentioned Nick Saban. You were teammates. He was, I think, a year ahead of you or two, but any way that you knew at the time he would, get into coaching and be one of the all-time greats? I'm sure that's hard to imagine that.
It was interesting. Coach James, got me and got him. They did it separate times. So I got a phone call one day, and this is right after I graduated. I was a free agent, tried out with the Steelers, didn't make it. But at the end of the day, he came to me, and he did the same thing with Nick. And I don't know if any other people he did that on the team, but he said, would you be interested in being a graduate student, go to graduate school and learn football and be a part of our program here? And maybe he saw us, individually. He's from West Virginia. They looked at us maybe like we were like, guys that look very committed to the program, and we could have those guys hang around here and help, build everything up around here. So isn't that amazing that he did that? And I remember one time, one of our duties was we were charged of the study table at the library with all the freshmen. We had to be there, we not with guns or anything, but we sat around, we make sure they studied, do all the right things and all those other things. And how did that ever happen? I mean, it did, but Nick looked at me and we were there one day, we're talking about playing. He goes, what do you think? What do you think, man? You think coaching college football would be good? We just talked about it. And again, this is the students are studying around it. We're talking real low. But then I think we both just said, I said, I think I might give it a chance. But, why not? I'll be going to graduate school, so that'd be good too, in a positive. And then the next day or something, he said, hey, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to get it done. Now, he was a year ahead of me. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is when I was finishing my senior year and I still looking at football. And so he jumped in right away, and I jumped in, right away after I graduated and after my senior year. And it's interesting how it all worked out. He will go down as the greatest football coach in the history of college football. And I don't know, looking at his numbers, I don't know if you could ever do that again, to do what he did. And right. and it's what an incredible accomplishment. And so there's the guy named Don James. Here's the guy that had this. My head coach there had massive influence on me, and it was and I applied it, all that I learned from him, as anybody would if you had a mentor like him.
That's right. Well, as great as Coach Saban was, one thing you'll always have on him, Coach, is you were inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame before him.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you'll use that sometime, right?
Yeah, I guarantee he'll use it.
All right, so you took us into how you got into coaching. You joined Coach James's staff as a GA at Kent. And then you moved with them to Washington, right, for 1 year, and then I think you were a receivers coach, and then you went to Bowling Green for a couple of years.
Yeah, what I did was I was finishing up undergraduate school at Toledo. He took the job at Washington, and he called me up and said, you can come here, you can continue graduate school there. But if you want to come here and be a graduate assistant, they're not going to school here. They're just coaching. And I would have you coach the tight ends. So I'm 22 years old. Yeah. And he's telling me he's going to give me a position to coach. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think it's obvious that he believed in me and as it went on. And so I did that. I said, let's do it. I got my wife, we jumped in the car, and we ended up going out to Seattle, Washington. I was there that whole year. And the thing I found out later, but I kind of figured out, was he wanted me there because I played for him. He wanted me there because the players would know that. So they're going to come up to me and say, what's he like? And how positive I would talk, and I would help them through the tough times because he makes it tough. I mean, it's as tough as any coach to train players how to think, react, and all those other things. And I think that was something that, certainly I had a huge impact. And so that was my first full-time coaching job. Then I got hired at Bowling Green, a full-time job. Okay, I got hired at Bowling Green in Ohio, who I hated as a player at Kent State because they're both in the American Conference.
Right.
First opportunity to be the receivers coach there, and so that was something that was for me my shot. You got to get in the door. I got in it, and Coach James had some he had obviously a big impact on me going there and what I was doing.
So you were at Bowling Green for a couple of years, and then you went back to Seattle. I think it was 1979. And
it was
you were there for
for
what, 11 years, and
pretty good run. What happened was I'm there. We got done with our second year, and I've had some other coaches were calling about me to go visit their schools. And after my second year, a full-time coach at Bowling Green. And I went with our offensive guys to Purdue just to talk to them. They were like, yes. Well, I get there and I get a call, and it's Coach James. And what you want to talk to me for? So I call him, and he said, Coach, he said, this is exactly the whole thing. I said, Coach, how you doing? Fine. He goes, what are you up to? I said, I'm at Purdue trying to make myself a better coach. He said, good. Okay, I got something for you here. Okay, the wide receiver position job's open. I got 5 people that I'm looking at to take it. You're one of the 5. If I offer it to you, will you take the job? That was my interview. That's my interview. Okay, what Gary Pinkel did, Gary Pinkel said, well, Coach, I'm really interested, but I got to call my wife, and tell her that, I want her to be understand, that she's committed to doing this too. And he said, and he kind of was grumbling a little bit. You could tell. I said, so Coach, I'll get back to you as soon as I get a hold of her. I don't know, it might be a while. This is when we didn't have cell phones. We were still making phone calls on the deal. And so Carol James, Coach James's wife, tells me years later, he got on the phone with her and said, you know what? I offered him the job and he didn't take it. He didn't want to talk to his wife. And Carol said, isn't that what you want your coaches to do, to include their wives and all that sort of thing? I didn't know that he was upset at me at the time. Oh my gosh. That was, but that was my break. I'm going to go to University of Washington, Pac-10 at the time, won lots of games, Rose Bowls, Orange Bowls. I mean, all kinds of stuff there. And I learned how to be I learned how to be a real good football coach, be good at what I did.
Right. Hey, and you were on staff with a guy named Bob Stoll, who obviously Missouri fans know well from his days as head coach here at Mizzou. And I know you got good stories on Coach Stoll. I'm not going to ask you to divulge anything crazy, but didn't you live with him at one point when you were at Washington?
Yeah, he's a great guy. So you got most of that staff was, I think they had 6 coaches that were at Kent. Coach James took him with him, and he hired 3 other ones. So we had a bunch of coaches, Ray Dorr and some other guys that were on the staff and really did a good job. And so, yeah, that was something that was really important. And so, Bob Stahl knew me. And so my first few days there, staying in a hotel, I had to get an apartment and all that. And my wife's going to come up later. And so I go into the, I walk out of the bathroom. I hear he's going, and he's sitting half naked at the mirror in the bathroom. And he's going uppity, uppity, up. He was talking to me because he didn't know I was up yet. He's going uppity, uppity, Gary Pinkel, Pink Man, uppity, uppity. And I think he might have been naked too. So wow, this is something. But by the way, all those coaches, and especially those guys that were from Kent, I had great relationships with. They had a lot to do with Coach James hiring me. But those guys all went on to be head coaches and just great people. And they won lots of games, lots of games.
Yeah. And at Washington, obviously you had great success, and it was 1990, which was ended up being your last year at Washington. You guys you won 10 games, you won the Pac-10, you won the Rose Bowl, finished, I think, 5th in the polls. Was that kind of the catalyst to you, to others looking at you being ready to be a head coach somewhere? Do you think that kind of catapulted you to that?
I think always coordinators are you look at, because it's a tough position. It's your big responsible position. You're almost like a head coach to the offense or the head coach to the defense. And I think that's what I think for some reason, I think that's how the whole thing works. And so for me, I was looking at it as an opportunity. I didn't know, if it would happen, but later on, right after that, obviously got a call from Toledo, and we went in a different direction from there. My stay at Washington, 11 bowls, 12 years. My last game I called plays, so we were playing Iowa in the Rose Bowl. That was my last game calling plays, and we beat them there. And I think we had top 5. We had top 5 of the nation. Mm-hmm. And so, it was little did I know then, a few weeks later, I'd be getting a call. And before you know it, Nick Saban calls me. That's the first person that called me. And he was the head coach for 1 year at Toledo, and he was going to get hired down, I think, at LSU. And he calls me up. And he says, he said, I'm going to be, he says, Pink, oh, guys call me Pink then. Hey, Pink. So what I'm doing is I'm leaving. He says, I'm going to go down and coach at LSU. I can think of about 8 or 9 guys, but there's one guy that I think's, good enough that can do a great job here. And he told their AD that too. And that's you. He said, would you be interested? And I said to him, should I be interested? And he said, right. Yes, you should. He said, in this league, this is a very, very good job. And I knew a little bit about that just from my background. So anyway, I end up going on interviews, and, obviously with Nick Saban, talking highly of me. And I think they were 8-2 or something that year. This is his only 1 year he was there. And I think he certainly had influence on me, and obviously Coach James helped it. And before you know it, I find out that I'm the head football coach at the University of Toledo.
Funny how that happens, right?
It really is.
So now you're at Toledo. You're building your program. 5 years in, you guys won 11 games, I think it was, in 1995, and something. This isn't really a question; it's just a fact that I think is really cool. At the end of that year, you played Nevada in the Las Vegas Bowl, and the bowl season was the very first time the new overtime rule for college football was implemented. It was put in just for the bowl games that year.
So we have experience with it. So the next year,
right.
we've worked through some of the ins and outs.
Right. And it just so happens your game goes to overtime against Nevada, and you guys ended up winning. So I just think that's a pretty cool distinction to know that you're the first coach to win an overtime game in Division I history.
Yeah, was that crazy? My kids said, they were up in the stands, and any overtime, they think that you should take the ball, score, it's over with. Okay. Well, that wasn't the way that worked, though. You both have a shot, so you would go on defense. So they're on the field. It's the first time overtime. They're not sure what it's about and everything. And all of a sudden, they do the flip of the coin and everything. And Toledo wins, and Toledo is going to go. They're going to play defense first. And so they said, Dad, all those our fans up there were ripping you. Saying, what are you doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. You take the ball, you score, you win. They don't have to go out there again. And Dad, you should see they were. That's the way people told me that. Anyway, bottom line is, we won the game, and we were undefeated that year. We had one tie, and I think we were 11-0-1. I think I don't know what the number was. And that was the only undefeated year I ever had as a coach, and any coach. You got to be a little bit lucky, but that's a very memorable moment. And I was a part of the first overtime game in the history of college football.
No, very cool.
Crazy.
Yeah, and so speaking of overtime, I know the NFL rules are different, but what did you think about the Super Bowl this last year? Niners win the toss in overtime, and they choose to take the ball. Obviously, you could make a case for either decision, but obviously it didn't work for them, and that's mostly because of a guy named Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I think what happens is, you have to look at your team. You have to look at what you're best at. You have to be able to analyze what they're going to do. So those things are real important. And that adjustment was just made prior to, I think. It hadn't been out for a while. Am I right?
Yeah, this is the first year they played it that way. Yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
Anyway, there's lessons learned and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And but I really felt my kids laughing about. I got looking around, and they said, "Dad, they were just booing you." They said, "What is he doing? Sucks, man. I mean, what are you doing?" And anyway, so it's kind of funny how things work out.
Yeah. Well, us fans, we know a lot, so we like to let you know. Hey, so yeah, we'll fast forward a little bit. Toledo in 2000 ended up being your last year there. You guys had a great season. You won 10 games. You had a huge win at Penn State early in that season. Do you think that win kind of launched you again, maybe to people took a look at you at a different level program after that win?
I think all the things that you have for your accomplishments, different things, different that. I think they are for the certain eye and the certain ear that people want to hear or see. But that game at Penn State was a good Penn State team, and I had met Joe Paterno through Coach James, so I know Joe. I met Joe Paterno, and so. We got that game out there, and stadium's packed like 95,000 people, and we're just methodically coaching and playing. And before you know it, we're down with that game. We're down with like 5 or 7 minutes left in the game, and we're winning by I don't know exact thing, by 8-9 or something. It was a 2-score game,
right?
And boy, my players played. I mean, I was so proud of them. What I did is I take notes for the media stuff and during the game. So second quarter out, so I can reflect and prepare when I go in and talk to them. And, so what I did on mine with 5 minutes left, I put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like a little kid, and every minute cross off another line. And people thought I was taking notes. I was just saying, get this game over with. Minute 1. 2 or 3 people asked, "Where are you writing?" And I said, "I was writing notes for the press conference." That's all I told them I'm doing there.
Yeah.
And then we won the game. So we win the game. I'm so proud of my players. We win the game, and my players my seniors came to me and hugged me on the sideline there, and then I looked for Joe Paterno, and there's a line completely across the field of my players. My players didn't come to hug me; they wanted me. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, and all those, And so I was that's one of those games you'll never ever forget. I think there's no question about it. My head was on the a big win, great season. And this guy is got potential to be good. He's trained by a guy named Don James, and all the things you're associated with prior to come to that. And so I was very pleased with that.
Yeah, that win at Penn State was obviously huge for Toledo's program, but roundabout way, it was probably big for Mizzou's program because that got you on the radar when Mizzou was looking for a new head coach after the 2000 season. And take us back to that process and what you remember from that time when Mizzou reached out to you and you got in the mix for the job here.
Well, yeah, that's something that, at Toledo, I didn't really have to leave or want to leave, but, I was getting to the point there for 10 years and this might happen. And I got a couple schools that called me and my agent who take care of those things, name's John Caponegro, he takes care of those things for me. And then, the Missouri one, comes up. And all of a sudden, I'm at Toledo. We got 10 starters coming back the next year. They won the championship year after I left.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking the University of Missouri, and I said, I just got to take a look at this. And I told, our athletic director that. I met Mike Alden there. And I don't think I'd ever come there if it wasn't for Mike Alden. And the reason being is they had one winning seasons in 20 years or something. I mean, it was like 17 years. I mean, you just kind of, you look back at how you take a breath there a moment, this is, I'm going to change jobs and I might be able to get a better job than that. But I always thought it was potentially, Missouri was really potentially a good place to go because of, you got St. Louis, Kansas City. What are you doing here? You got a state by yourself. If you can sit there and hold on to those, they play great high school football. And so I did get that call, and then I went out in the interviews, and I liked it there. I had a lot of people tell me not to do it. Mr. Saban was one of them, and when he was saying that, he was a little bit colorful when he was saying it. He tried to make his point, but I would have never taken it. They had just done some facility stuff. But Mike Alden, he was the one that I thought, I told him, when I took the job, I said, there's going to be a time when I'm going to need you, okay, in building this. I said, you're flipping a program had 2 winning seasons in 17 years. And this is going to be hard. This is going to be remarkably hard. And so we talked about back and forth, but I just told him that, there's going to be a time when I'm going to need you. And there was, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So we went on the interviews and I was excited to do it. I guess, it was my moment to go on to play at the highest level of college football as a head football coach, which is hard to get those jobs and it's hard to keep them. And so that's kind of what I did, and it turned out obviously pretty good.
I'll always remember the story you tell. You get the job at Mizzou, you have your introductory press conference, you go back to your hotel room after it's over to kind of relax. You get a call from your assistant coach, Dave Yost, who you brought with you from Toledo, and he had some news for you about one portion of the roster construction. Tell that story for us.
You mean just the personnel issues?
Yeah. He called you with some bad news.
Yeah. And it was Dave Yost too, both of them.
Yeah.
And they sit there and we looked at the staff and they said, Coach, first I was Stan and he said, Yost said, Coach, I want you to sit down. I'm not sitting down. David, what do you want to tell me? I mean, I know him really well. And so he goes, he says, Coach, they have 2 scholarships, or they have 2 in their secondary. They have 2 corners, and on scholarship. And by the way, one of them's having surgery tomorrow morning. So we only have one. We only have one corner on, and it's. I don't want to be mean to anybody, but it's so irresponsible. That can't happen. Especially when you've been there 4 or 5 years. So, I heard that and I'm going, oh my gosh, what did I do? This was after I accepted the job. This was after I.
Yeah. And, too late to go back now.
Yeah. Too late to go back now. But it was so much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I knew it was going to be easy. You don't have that, 2 winning seasons, 17 years. You don't have that, those things don't happen very often. And but at the end of the day, we found a way to get it done. You had a great staff. We changed the attitude of the players. We got the players to be team players. They got the players to learn to be able to be mentally and physically tough in adverse conditions. All those things we had to just go up before you could get up here and play that way. But we just stuck with it, and we did. But at the end of that first year, the first couple of years was crazy. When we played Michigan State at the end of my first year, we had the May 4th shooting, not May 4th shootings. We had the
September 11th, yeah.
September 11th.
Yeah.
We had September 11th, and I just never forget. When we had to go play our last game against Michigan State at Michigan State, and I go to the game, and my players quit on me. Okay, they quit on me. You might say, well, coach, they didn't quit on you. They just, they had a bad year. It was a tough year, a lot of things going on. But I took it as they quit on me. Okay. And I said, well, to myself, I said, you know what? My players are going to quit again. But they're going to quit when they're going through our agility drills. They're going to go through when we're developing mental toughness. That's when they're going to quit. Okay. Because we're going to raise this bar up here and take this place to a different level. And I met with the staff the next day. I brought them in. I said, you know what? This is attention to detail in everything we do around here. They got to do it at high level of excellence. They have to do it right, or they have to do it again. Now, we've been doing that, but our intensity level with the message was different now. Okay. After that, after getting beat, Michigan State just exploded on us. So anyway, bottom line, I wanted to turn that negative into a positive, but it was still a ways to go.
Sure. And you talked all the time about how, and you mentioned it before even, that, it didn't happen right away. It took several years to kind of get the foundation of Coach James's program in your mold to get it going.
Yeah.
And you touched on Mike Alden briefly before, but let's get into that a little bit. 3 losing seasons, even though there was progress shown, but the numbers show 3 losing seasons in the first 4 years. And that's kind of when you told Mike, hey, I need you now. And he was there for you, right?
I had a meeting with him after every year I was there. I just met with him for coffee on the Sunday, the day after, because I had to go recruiting, the day after our last game. And so Mike and I got together, like we always did. And we just, that's when my players quit on me, And so what happened was I looked at him. I sat down right with him, and I says, Mike, the first thing I talked, I said, I told you several years ago, 3 years ago, okay, I told you this was going to be tough, okay, and it's even, I knew it was going to be tough. It's even tougher than I ever thought it was. But I told you that time too, when I took the job, there's going to be a point when I'm going to say, I need you. I need you. And I said, well, Mike, I'm telling you this right now. I need you, okay? You want me to turn this? We can turn this around. But I'm going to need your support, 100% support. When people sit there and start throwing curveballs, and that's okay. That's normal stuff. I get it. And, he looked at me and said, shook my hand, he walked away. He didn't sit there and say, well, you got to win this year. You got to win this. He just believed what we talked about several years ago. It came to fruition when it happened.
Right. And nowadays it doesn't seem like people have that much patience, and it wasn't easy for Mike, I'm sure, to fend off people who thought maybe it's time for another change. But in this day and age of the instant gratification and all that, do you think coaches can have the patience that you were given back then nowadays?
Yeah, I think so. But it just depends who. It just depends who it is. I mean, they would probably, probably people thought I should have got fired then. And, but the thing that was best for me was back it up a year when I took the job, or it's up 3 years ago. And I said, there's going to be a point and I need you. And he just embraced it like that. And that gave me so much confidence. Hey, just go, just get the thing going, and we're going to turn this around. And you know what? because of Mike Alden's patience, his knowledge, and what an incredible athletic director to work for.
Well, and obviously you build the program around recruiting, and it was more than just one guy, but certainly people point to a guy like Brad Smith as kind of the key starting block, if you will. And we all experienced Brad and everything he was, just an incredible person off the field as he was on the field and what he did. But, thinking back to what he meant to your program, that's kind of where you got your footing, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, Matt Eberflus was recruiting him in Ohio. So he was, that's what Matt was with me and was a player, but the biggest thing was he was still, even though we were at Missouri, we had some of the players we knew about in Ohio, so we kept recruiting him. And so he comes and he comes on a home visit, and I go home visit with him, and I'm looking at this kid, and I mean I saw him on film, and I'd say, why isn't a lot of people recruiting him? He's like the nicest, probably because they thought he was too nice. And at the end of the day, so at the end of the day, he comes out and he decides, he's thinking about going. So we meet the pastor of his church that day. So we go in with the pastor, and he's asking us all these kind of questions. And then we leave, and him and his mom start talking, things like that. And so we're sitting there, and we go back in and meet with the minister again. And he says, this guy's a really good young man. And I said, yes, sir, that guy is a really good young man. I'm very impressed. And he looked at me and said, Coach Pinkel, you've got no idea what you got here. It's what a statement. I mean, and I said, well, yeah. I said, yes, sir. I respect that. I've been trained to do this, and he interrupted me again with a smile. He said, you got no idea. little did we ever have. And you go back to those moments, and I got back in the car with Matt Eberflus, and he looked at me. We both had smiles because he committed to us then, and we both had smiles. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and we said, "This guy's something else. This guy's a special guy," and he was. I mean, the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, and again, it wasn't just Brad, but, Brad seemed to get so many people excited about the Tigers and your program. And I just remember a lot of guys when later on, they'd commit to Mizzou, they'd come play here. And so many of them would say, well, I saw Brad Smith on TV running all over Creation, and that just looked like a great place to go. So,
yeah, that really was. I mean, Brad, being a freshman, start as a freshman. Everybody wants to, start as a freshman if you're good enough. And they see this young guy just doing incredible things. And we had all these guys, I don't want to start mentioning names. We had all these guys jumped in because Brad Smith, we got this freshman guy. If you've seen him play, I'm going to have him my next 3 years. He's going to be with me, and we can help turn Mizzou football around. And in fact, that's really at the end of the day, what happened.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk to you about every single team, but we don't have time for that. So we'll just kind of fast forward a little bit here, but, so we get to 2007, we all saw things building from the early years, and, recruiting's picking up, the wins start building a little bit, right? And it leads to 2007. And I know you've said, I don't know, you probably said everything you could ever say about that year and that team and that group, but what are some takeaways, when somebody asks you about that year, what comes to mind?
Well, it's a year that we were in the big arena, you're in the Cotton Bowl, one of the best bowls in the history of college football. And, you look back at it now and you look at it, all those kids got committed, they just all started jumping in, and they were good kids, and they wanted to win, and we could gain their leadership, and we can do all the things you have to do within a program to get all the players and coaches on the same notes on singing the music and the same length of singing the music, and to do the things we got to do to be great. And we finally got to the end of that. We had a great season that season, and then we got now down to the end, and we're in the Cotton Bowl. And wow, I mean, it was I'll never forget it. And when you win a game like that, you end up fourth in the nation, and that's what we ended up doing.
Man. Hey, one game specifically that year that was so much fun was the win against Nebraska at Furrow Field. And how much fun was it to call that fake field goal toward the end of the game? Gave Martin Rucker, who to me is one of the most important guys, that you built your program around in the early days, a Missouri kid who, when it maybe wasn't cool to come to Mizzou. But anyway, and his brother had played at Nebraska, was a star there, just was a lot of symbolism there, and it was just really cool to see him get that chance to have fun at the end of that game. And what do you remember about that play?
Well, I remember calling it, and I with Coach James, one thing I learned from him was when you play somebody that's really, really good, to have a couple trick plays in, it helps momentum for your team. If you can make something, all of a sudden they're fired up, because it's working.
Yeah.
And so that game was, we hadn't beaten them in 25 years, and so we're in that position, and so I called the play, and we ended up scoring. It was a fake field goal.
Yep.
And we ended up scoring. The stadium was just going absolutely crazy. And so when I look at that, it was something we needed, something that we had to have. And at the end of the day, when you go back and look at that those kind of things you have to do to make movements with your program. And fortunately, we did a great job of executing through the whole thing. I went to the press conference afterwards, and this guy comes up. They're going asking all these questions. Finally, it gets to the fake field goal, and the guy says, Coach, he said that was one of the greatest calls I've ever seen. And I said, excuse me, sir. If he'd have dropped the ball, you probably wouldn't be saying those things, and it still would have been a good call. So I had that moment to when you win games, you can get Mr. Jokester a little bit.
That's right.
Mammoth move for that football game. Mammoth.
Yeah. So after the 2007 season, we all got to experience something pretty special. Got to go take a trip to New York City to be with Chase Daniel, the star quarterback, and kind of the face of the program, to his Heisman Trophy finalist appearance. What do you remember about that?
Oh, it's just Coach James did a lot of things, but he never for the Hall of Fame. You're not sitting in those little chairs, and so when I say this right now, I think it's real important that we're talking about one player and all these good players and great kids. We got tons of them. And that's why we're winning all these games. There's not magic out there, that they believe in, they're part of it. And so I'm forever grateful to my players and my coaches, how hard we worked and how we handled adversity and how we handled success and how we had each other's backs and all those things that you build into any organization is the same way. It happens to be football, what we do here. And you apply all those things. And so, I was really happy for him. And, it was just a great, great experience.
And then, like I said, you've got so many great moments we could talk about, but we'll kind of fast forward a little bit here to keep it moving. So Mizzou moves to the SEC, had a tough first year, and it was just got decimated with injuries all over the place. And that was never an excuse, but it was just a tough entry into the league. And all of a sudden people are thinking, yeah, Missouri, they don't belong in the SEC. And then all of a sudden 2013 comes around, guys get healthy. The program was ready to take off, and it did again. And that was a special year too, wasn't it? 2013.
Yeah, it was. 13 was. Where are we at again? We're in the Cotton Bowl again, in a different league. Great opportunities. We had a really good football team. Again, I like to tell everybody's name of every player that we had. I love my guys and my coaches. But what a great win that was. That we ended up that year 5th in the nation winning, and we just had a heck of a team. We had that big win at Georgia. It's hard to win at Georgia. It's hard to win, and we found ways. And you talk about trick plays and all kinds. We pulled it all out in that game, and it all worked. I mean, that's the amazing thing. It worked. So it was a great time, and the next year, 2014, the next season. We won a divisional championship, but we lost the championship game. So the point was, is we 13, 14, we come back right back to, we have 2 in a row that are championship type teams. The same thing we did when we were not in the SEC. So our program is continuing to grow and build, and certainly it was. I love my players, my coaches, and I thank them all for it and what they do and how hard they work. It's so hard to win.
Absolutely. One thing you always said that would help you win is if you had a quarterback and then you had a guy to go get the other team's quarterback. That was kind of one of your, philosophies of you're always going to have a quarterback and you're always going to have a guy to go get the other team's quarterback. And that played out, pretty prophetically because you always had a really good quarterback for you.
Yeah.
And you always had amazing athletes on defense, on the line, especially.
I remember my first press conference there. I took the job and that was our press conference. And a guy who looked at me and he said, I said, we'll always have a quarterback. I said that thing. I didn't mean to be arrogant or anything. I just said that. I said, we will always have a quarterback. And the guy interrupted me, sir, what do you mean you're always going to have a quarterback? And I said, we'll always have a quarterback. I just said it like that. Didn't sarcastically say it or anything. And he just kind of looked at me and he didn't ask me again. And I think a lot of people did. But if you look at my record in coaching at Washington, at Toledo, at Missouri, we probably were as 10% had the best quarterbacks all those years. We were part of that. We built that.
Yeah.
And then that's our evaluation. I learned from Ray Dorr, Coach James. I learned all those things. But it also, that's just one segment of what happened in terms of, like you talking about, defensive players and offensive linemen and all the great players that we had. But we had first round draft choice. I think we had 5 or 6 of them. And, we had a bunch of guys getting drafted in the NFL. And most importantly, they're all graduating from college too. So anyway, we had a good run. I was so blessed and so honored. So
one thing I thought always stood out about your program was, and I think is an underrated element of the success that you had, was the continuity with your coaching staff. I mean, it's unheard of. You had the staff that you assembled for your first year at Mizzou was with you the entire way, unchanged all the way through, I think, 2008. So you had 8 seasons, the exact same coaching staff. And, to me, that's incredible. And I believe that helped you establish things and especially on the recruiting trails, right? With
the consistency.
People. Yeah. Yeah.
The same guys recruit in the same areas. They know the high school coaches real well, and you go on and on like that. But it's all that, and it's all part of having a program. And the program, it wasn't my program, it wasn't Nick Saban's program, it was Don James' program. And I remember everything he did, how he did it, why he did it. And that's when I got here. That's what I was going to do. I was going to sit there. I'm not looking around when I became the head coach at Toledo. What do you think we should do? Or ask guys in the meetings. Not that you can't ask them to get them involved in it. But early in my career, I wasn't interested in them getting involved with it. I'm telling you how we're going to do this. Right? That sounds arrogant, and I'm not. My mom would come down to heaven to sack me. But at the end of the day, though, that was something that I knew how to run a program, and I was a part of a program that was absolutely pathetic. And before you know it, we're 9-2. We won the first championship in the history of Kent State University. Why? Because of a guy named Don James who created this environment to win and be successful. That's what I learned from him, and that's what Nick Saban learned from him.
Yeah, and you carried it forward. And then, I don't know, a couple Januaries ago, you're at home and you had an unexpected package delivered to your doorstep. You didn't know what was in there. You open it up and it's a football, and you weren't quite sure what it was at first. But tell us, the process of what that ended up representing.
Well, there's a box in front of the door, and I worked out, so I came back and there's a box sitting in front of the front door, and I'm looking at it. I bring it in here, I open it up. It's about this big, and there was a football in it, and what's this? What's this? So I opened it up. I pulled it up, and it on the football was about the College Football Hall of Fame on the base of it, and I'm looking at this skeptical, and I'm trying to figure the whole thing out. And then there's a little piece of paper in there that said out of the 1,800 the numbers of how hard it is to go into Hall of Fame. It's almost impossible, again, number wise, mammoth. And it told that story. And then it said, but to you, welcome to College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I just started crying. I'll be honest with you. I was just, I was just overwhelmed. I had never in a million years, I even think about even, help I get. I never. So I grabbed the ball and I run into the bathroom. My wife's in the shower, and I said, Missy, first of all, I was crying. So she looked at me and said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, look at this. And I showed her the thing, and she read it. The same little phrase I mentioned a moment ago. And I had the football in my hand, and she goes, "Ah!" It was just a really cool moment between me and her. And again, I accept that, for the staff that we had, Chad, what you did. What Hatch did, might go on and on. I don't say all the coaches' names and all the players that played for me. It's all about all of those people that got committed to being successful on and off the field. And so I'll never, ever, ever forget that. And there is no greater honor than that is. I'm being redundant a little bit, but I accepted that for a lot of different people that played for me and worked for me.
Yeah, well, and it was so cool. I had the honor, my wife and Sherry had the honor of being part of your entourage in Las Vegas for that induction ceremony. And it was just cool to see how many of your former coaches and players and staff members joined us all. It was a big family reunion, basically. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was. And I was so excited for everybody. And I'm so glad that they came and they were a part of it. If it was up to me, I could be able to zap something, and every player that ever played for me there, and every coach and all the people that worked for me could all be there in the one room. So there was a few that were there, and it was awesome. And just I'm to this day, it's been overwhelming, and will always be overwhelming to me what we could do together to build such a good program.
Yeah. Hey, one thing I wanted to backtrack just real quick, back to recruiting. You and your staff did such a good job of finding diamonds in the rough, whatever you want to call them, kind of under recruited kids, right?
Yes.
I know you never looked at the star rating on a kid.
Never.
You never followed that. It just was part of the story, but you guys did so great, going to find the guys like a Sean Weatherspoon, Denario Alexander, Ziggy Hood, Lorenzo Williams, all those guys that, just weren't getting the attention.
Name 50 more, 75 more.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you brought them in and you developed them to your program. And obviously you identified the kids that you thought could fit your program, and they had to work at it. Obviously they had to put in the work, but I just always thought that was so, you guys got so much respect for building your program so successfully on kids that really were kind of undervalued.
Yeah. I think you look at player development. That's, when you get a young man in high school, I could look at a guy and tell you how much he's going to, and tell him in 2 years, this is how much you're going to weigh. This is how much strong you're going to be. It's how quick you're going to be, all these other things. And I think that's one of the big things. We had a plan for all that stuff. It wasn't just come in and cheer hard and say, let's go get it. With a great work ethic, we understood, and everybody had to have the work ethic. You know that, Chad, you have, that's just in our organization. That's what you did. And, we always try to help our players be better. And I think that's, through the whole thing, and how to handle adversity and all the different segments and components that you have to be able to do that. And, just feel very, very blessed to be a part of that. And I could coach my whole life as a football coach.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you too, you had to have a huge sense of pride when you heard the news that a protege of yours, Matt Eberflus, who you'd mentioned before, was named the head coach of the Chicago Bears a couple of years ago. And you got to attend his first game, right, as a head coach?
Yeah. He was a captain for me at Toledo.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? That's amazing. And he had coached one year Nick Saban was there. That was his junior year. Then he played for me 1 year. Then he became a graduate assistant. Yeah, he's doing well. He had first year he had some battles going on. This last year, they had the second best defense in the NFL. And by the way, they won a bunch more games. And guess what? They got the first round draft pick. And I think they're going to go for the kid from SC. Really, really proud of him. I'm really proud of all my coaches and what they've done. And to be a part of all that, it's I just it's just a bit overwhelming for me. So I feel
Of
good.
course. All right, so let's kind of keep this moving here. Try and get you out of here. I know you've been very generous with your time, but so after coaching is done, you stepped away from coaching, and you kind of needed something to do for a sense of purpose. And Missy, your wife, who you mentioned before, she kind of helped encourage you to figure out something to do, and that turned into what is called the GP Made Foundation. So tell people about the GP Made Foundation and what you do.
Well, this is probably 3 years after I retired. I retired. I have cancer. I still have it. But I've been blessed that it just hasn't done a whole lot. And eventually it's gonna, but it hasn't happened. So that's that, right off the top. Missy looked at me one day and she said, she goes, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "What's wrong?" This is like maybe 3 years after I retired. I said, "I really miss my players."
Mm-hmm.
Let me pause here a moment. They drove me freaking nuts too. They drove me crazy. Okay.
Right.
I had I had helped train these guys to be better young men, but I did miss them. I did miss them because we didn't only make good football players, we made better men. And that's what happened. And so I said that to her. And about 4 minutes later, she walked back in. She goes, "Why don't you start a foundation?" I said, "What do you mean?" "Why don't you start a foundation to help kids?" Well, yeah, why not? Well, so I thought about it, and then I went for a couple more days and talked, and and it was it was just real important for me. So we started founding the GP Made Foundation, and GP is Gary Pinkel. Made is, we use the term Mizzou made around here, but this made is MADE, make a difference every day in the lives of kids. That's what it was, and that's how we put the thing together. And so, we wanted kids that, that come, for the kids with cancer, we work with kids in cancer, kids with physical challenges. I have cancer. I think that's probably related to that a little bit. Physical challenges. My brother and sister were in wheelchairs, but they're in adolescence. My brother passed away. My sister's still alive. They had wheelchairs their whole life. And Gary Pinkel's sitting there, and I'm playing football and everything's going well for me. So I've always been very, very sensitive, and there's so many things you can do to help people that have physical challenges, and so many things. And so that was another one of our things. And then the rest of the things is me recruiting in Atlanta or Los Angeles or San Diego, whatever, and going on home visits and see kids that come from really disturbing backgrounds, and kids that need to learn to be developed, to be opportunities, so that they can live a better life. Education's part of that, and the other part of that is just turning yourself into a good young man. And so that's what we started doing. So we're getting different monies that we're sending to help kids all over the central Missouri area, and it's been going really, really good. And we're going to keep working hard at it. We're going to try to even raise more money. But all three of those pillars I just mentioned that's what we meet to help kids in those areas. And we have a lot of great people around here. They're doing a lot of great things with people. And so it's been good. It's been great for me. And I'm doing something significant. I'm doing something significant. I'm helping these kids. And so, for me, it's been a tremendous honor. And I really appreciate Missy, who was vice president of it. And I could like to name all the different people that were a part of it, but we'd be here for another 45 minutes. Thankful to all those people that helped us and have helped us to get to this point in fundraising to make a difference in those lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're celebrating 5 years coming up here soon. So that'll be fun, a fun achievement there.
Yep.
Hey, so you also had another kind of special honor, if you want to call it that, but you were selected, people know that you were selected to serve on the college football playoff committee. And I know you probably can't say a ton because, they need to keep things close to the vest, but you've had meetings and all that stuff initially. You've got to be excited to be part of that. It's a huge step in the evolution of college football with the expanded playoff and all that. This has got to be an exciting thing to be part of.
Yeah, I was honored. I was honored. There's only 13 people in the committee that do make these votes. And so it's a huge responsibility on my part. I met these people. These people are incredible people that I'll be working with. And I'm so excited about, getting better. It's about the process, how you do this so you can make good decisions. And we're going to go to 12 teams this year. It's going to go from 4 to 12. Holy cow. It's the first time it's going to happen. I'll be traveling a lot to Chicago. That's where we're going to meet on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays as the season goes on.
Right.
But I was overwhelmed with the character, the kindness, the seriousness of all the people there that work so hard to get it right. And I think they do a great job. And I'm excited about being a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You thought you watched a lot of film and video back in the day when you were coaching. You're going to be watching a lot of it now going forward, I'm sure.
Yeah, they give you an iPad. It's not nothing normal about it, but all the play. You want a movie? They're going to send you three games. I want to watch these 3 games. I got to look at their personnel. So you call them. They shoot it to you. They shoot it right to your on here, and you got those games right in front of you. You're watching those games, and guess what? There's no timeouts. There's no watching the huddle. There's no watching the sidelines. It's down and distance field position. It's down and distance where it's at. And so you can get through those things in like 50 minutes, of 3.5 hour. You get through it like in 50 minutes. So you can study all this stuff and make good decisions. And I just very, very impressed with attention to detail and what a remarkable job the people there, what they're doing.
Well, it's going to be an important year for that committee to get things started, and I know you'll work hard on helping them get it off the right foot. So we're looking forward to seeing that. We touched just real briefly on family before, and I know you're real proud of your kids, and they're all, I got to know them a little bit over the years and being behind the scenes, and they're all incredible people. And shoot, you have 8 grandkids now, so I know that keeps you busy. You get a chance to go watch your grandkids play, whether it's basketball or football or soccer or all that. So I know they're keeping you busy too, right?
Yeah, that's the responsibility that I have. You got grandkids, and you got to, and I want them to remember that, things that we did together and had good experiences and things like that. And I'm very proud of my kids, my children too. And so, life's good for Gary Pinkel. Missy, my wife's awesome. And, so I look forward to, continue just to, as I get older. So I'm real excited for a 3-year period of time. We're going to get this college football playoff, which you mentioned. But also I think I should mention this about Coach Drink right now. He did a heck of a job,
Yeah.
and again, like you all did with me the same way. You cross it off, let's move to the next game. We're going to do that. But I'm just going back a little bit, just because it's hard to win. And I had said that 1,000 times, but that team really did a heck of a job, and we're real proud of them. And it's just great to see the Mizzou pride, back. It was back. It was magnificent. And so here we go. Got to get next season, get going. But to all the Missouri Tigers last year, played on that football team, and coaches and everybody else. We're proud of you, and get back to work, man. Cross it off, move on.
That's going to be a fun year, no doubt. Just a couple more things, just about you personally. It was always kind of a story with you that you loved. You said you have a need for speed, or you have a problem with speed. You love speed. You used to love your Harley. You love your boat on the lake. You still ride your Harley, or you done with that now?
No, I had a Harley Davidson. It was a great getaway for me. I got this right my 3rd or 4th year here, because I just needed to get away. I mean, I needed to, because it was so hard. It was so hard that early. So, I said, I'm going to go get a bike, and I bought one, and, learn from it and learn people. I know people had it, and I had some friendships off of it. Yeah. I had that probably, I think, for about 10 years. I had that, and it was been pretty good. And so I had that, and we bought a place at the lake. We started being down there more. And so it's naturally, if you could be down there for my kids and my family, especially when they're young. So I got a boat down there. And so that was fun also. I don't have a boat anymore, my motorcycle I'm not doing anymore, but I got a Jeep. I got a Jeep right now that
There you go.
that I have, that it kind of that helps me out through all those things. But yeah, those things were, at the time, they were mental getaway where you can just get away and chill a little bit.
I thought it was always funny too. You told the story of when things weren't going so well on the field, people would tell you, "Hey, go ride your Harley at night in the rain."
Yes. Most of them are my friends, but I said I called them dirt bags and things like that. I said it, but that was funny. But you know what? I'm just telling you, people would probably try to swerve over and take you out if they could. It's such remarkable fans. But anyway, it's pretty good stuff, and I'm glad. Sometimes I wish I would have my Harley Davidson back, but when you get older, your instincts aren't as good, and you can't be lacking any instinct when you're sitting on a motorcycle.
Well, I'm glad you're done with it. I know you had your fun, but hey, one other thing I know you love is music. I had a chance to go to a couple of concerts here with you and Missy and friends to. We saw Earth, Wind, and Fire here at the Ozarks Amphitheater. We saw REO Speedwagon together. It was a lot of fun. So that's something you enjoy too, right? Music?
Yeah, I really do. I always have. I'm not going to start naming them now, but I mean, I love music, and so that's a great getaway for me. You can just chill out. You can, whether you put a headset on or you're in the car, and you just crank it up, and you get it. Just a way to just get you mentally to chill out and relax, so you can get back and go do the things that you're supposed to do. So, and I love all genres of music. I mean, I like everything, and not every song and everything, but parts of all of them. I really embrace, and I'm a music man. I like it. Can I play any music? No. I can play a deer, a female deer on a keypad, but no, I'm not very good at it.
I gotcha. Well, I'm the same way. What's next for Gary Pinkel? You got foundation events. You're keeping busy.
Yeah, the college football playoff just kind of fell on my lap, but the good Lord has always had done for me. So where'd that come from? Oh, okay. They call and ask me. So, for me, it's just living every day the best, and trying to make myself better every day, and also do anything I can to help anybody if they need help. That's just kind of that's what I always did my whole life. And I'm very honored. I'm very, it's overwhelming kind of things that have happened to me. I don't really know why sometimes it happened to me. A lot of success stories and being in the profession that I was in. But I'm about people. I'm about my teammates and my coaches and my players and my families and everybody and all the people that I'm around and athletic director, all those people. And so I feel very much that I've been blessed, but I still want to continue doing something significant every day. And that's what the foundation's about. And that's also now, which is pretty awesome, for college football playoff. So do something better and be always rooting for the Missouri Tigers and the Chiefs.
That's right. Well, I'm a firm believer that good things happen to good people. So, you've always been a hard worker and, doing great things. And we're all very proud of you, all of us Mizzou fans. And thanks for everything you've done for this school and the program and everybody else that you're trying to help out with your foundation. So, Coach, you've been very gracious with your time, and we'll leave it at that, and appreciate you answering some of these questions. And you can critique me afterward off air if you want to about what stupid questions I may have asked you, but it was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Well, Chad, you're very good at what you do. And everybody out there, Chad and I have a real good relationship, and you get judged a lot of times through the tough times, and you make through it. There's always going to be problem solving business, coaching, and those kind of things, and most are. But when you got guys like Chad around you, and the infrastructure around you, and you can make good decisions and help people and make progress. And so I appreciate all the stuff you always did for us, and God bless everybody out there. And, I hope all people are, trying to each and every day wake up and try to make themselves a little bit better.
You got it. Well, great stuff, Coach. Thanks again for joining. And we will catch you soon, I'm sure.
Okay, buddy. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Well, that will do it for episode number 3 of the Mo Show on Rock Am Radio. I hope you enjoyed the visit with head coach Gary Pinkel. I sure did. Had a great time catching up. Geez, there must have been 20 other questions I had hoped to have a chance to ask, but didn't want to keep him for too long. So maybe we'll get him back on the show at some point to talk about those other things. So again, thanks for joining. I'll be back soon with episode number 4. So be sure to look for that one on Rock M Radio, wherever you get this podcast. Thanks for joining in. Grace and peace, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.